No, that was Mayor.
All right, the council agenda. We're going to begin now. Council agenda. Township Parsippany-Troy Hills Township Council Agenda Meeting of May 7th, 2024. Introduction, posting of notice. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the municipal building on December 20th, 2023, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record and the Newark Star Ledger on December 26th, 2023. May I ask everyone to please stand for the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Hernandez.
Here.
Mr. McGrath.
Here.
Mr. Musella. Mr. Neglia.
Here.
Mr. Karifi.
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor James Barbario, Township Administrator Jamie Cryan, Township Attorney Michael Lavery, Municipal Clerk Colette Madden, Council President. We have a quorum. May I begin, please?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings are May 21st, 2024 at 7 p.m., which is the regular meeting, and June 11th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at the agenda meeting. At this time, I'll ask the Council Administration to please review ordinances for second reading. They will be on for action at the next meeting. Okay, seeing that there's no questions at this time, we're going to go ahead and move right into the public session. I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public session, please.
Make a motion?
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Neglia, I'm going to say. Roll call. Mr. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. McGrath.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Okay, so the floor is open to the public. You can speak on any matter. You have 5 minutes to speak. Please just state your name. You do not need to state your address.
Hi, I'm Julie Peterson, 25 Old Parsippany Road. Since May is a historic preservation month, I thought I'd give you a little preservation story about our house. As you may or may not know, our house is a 275-year-old Livingston Benedict house. It was first built in 1752. It was the Revolutionary War refuge home for the first elected governor of New Jersey, Governor William Livingston, and his family. They lived in Parsippany from 1777 till 1781. The house has been occupied by my ancestors since 1887. First it was a farm, then a summer residence, and finally a much-loved family home for my grandparents, my parents, and now my husband and me. It's always been a residence, ever since before there was a township of Parsippany-Troy Hills. So, this is why it's still there. In 1950, a proposed Route 80 would have destroyed the house. The working line was right through the middle. My grandmother appealed, and the house was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. So it's protected from federal takings. In 1970, Morris County rerouted Parsippany Road. They were going to put it between the two houses that are in those pictures, but they decided that maybe 10 feet from our porch was a little close for a 4-lane road, and dead-ended Parsippany Road, and that's why Parsippany Road runs the way it does now. In the 1970s, my parents were relieved to discover that the land around them was zoned ROL. ROL provided for large lots, no subdivision of the large lots, and the buildings were required to look kind of the same. So, Lanadex Corporation, which was the people who were developing it, was very understanding of the needs of the historic importance of the house and being next door to it. Subdivision of the property was only allowed recently, And the new owners neglected the vacant office building and grounds at 30 Lanedex West for the last 2 years. That's how we knew it had been subdivided, because all of a sudden there was no lawn maintenance, no building maintenance, no anything. Okay, and 1997, a Green Acres grant prevented a gas station to be built on what is now Governor Livingston Park, thanks to Mimi Letts. In 1999, the New Jersey Historic Trust accepted a historic and conservation easement on the house and 4.5 acres of property. And there it says what's in it. An easement protects this property from development in perpetuity on the deed. Doesn't matter whether we own it or somebody else's own it. It's never going to be developed. Preservation efforts and planning, however successful, never seem to be quite enough. A proposal for a truck warehouse to be built between our house and Parsippany-Troy Funeral Home compromises the current residential use in our area. Parsippany's Revolutionary War houses are few and far between. Are they important, or should they just be forgotten about, compromised? Do the council members have a commitment to property owners and business owners that are already on Parsippany Road and been there for a long time? To the commuters who need that road to get to their houses, to work, and to school? Parsippany does not need more historic museums. You guys do a splendid job supporting the Craftsman Farms Stickley Museum, and that's great. And we have some other historic museums. But what Parsippany really needs to think about is supporting private ownership and preservation of historic houses and property.
30 seconds.
And they can do this by looking at the master plan. How many people, how many of you, this is a question that you're not allowed to ask at the Zoning Board of Adjustment. How many of you would seriously love to live next to a truck warehouse? Thanks very much for listening.
I was here for the last 2 council meetings, and this is in regard to the flood wall. I live at 66 River Drive, Lake Hiawatha. Nobody is taking care of the brush, which your survey said had to be done. I have a couple of pictures from April and May. It shows just how bad it's gotten. Last year, I went over to the Parks and Recreation building, and the guy told me that he didn't want to send his guys over the wall to clear up this brush, because he didn't want them to get hurt. I'm 72 years old. It's beyond my capability to clear. It needs to be done. It was stipulated in that survey on what has to be done before the wall can be repaired. So it's gotten quite bad. It's like a jungle over there. My other question is, in February, you said that the engineers had to do a plan, and it had to be submitted for bidding. Is this going to get done this year, or is it going to be put off till next spring? Is the wall going to get fixed? It leaks all over the place. So I'm really concerned, seeing as how I live right on the river, and I really don't want 25 inches in my house again like Irene. So that I spoke with you about it last meeting. So it's gotten quite bad over there. And that's just my property. I got 120 feet across the, frontage. So this goes the whole length of the wall. There's trees growing back up, which is going to damage the wall, and the brush has to be cleared. So my question is, can you get some guys out there to do it?
Yep,
Okay.
that's present.
Okay, is that your only question, ma'am?
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much
Yeah.
just flood.
Okay.
So, Ms. Martin, I'm sorry you had to come back to talk
I'll
about this.
keep coming back.
I know,
You know what?
No, you're right, we're wrong, and I'm sorry about that. I spoke with our engineer,
called?
Justin,
Well,
his
Justin,
boss,
okay.
yeah, and he was.
Ma'am,
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 can you
just
get
need you to
stay over
just,
there?
stand over here, please. Yeah,
He's watching you.
Or maybe put me in jail, I don't know, quit smoking.
He was gonna call you and explain the process of where we are right now with the bidding
Okay.
and all that stuff. They're working on it. It should be done shortly and should be out.
For bidding.
For bidding in, you know.
Is there any possibility of this being done this
Yes,
year?
yes, definitely. That's the goal.
I
That's the
hope
goal.
so.
That's
I hope
really
so.
the goal. That's what everybody's working towards.
Otherwise, I gotta go out there and put my finger in the
Yeah.
wall to stop the leak.
And with the brush, we'll try to get somebody out there this week to.
Yeah, it's you know, like I took pictures in April, and it was just, you know, stalks, but now it's a jungle.
Yeah,
It's really bad. Okay, I'll hold you to your word.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President, can I just ask you
Yes,
a
go ahead.
question?
Yes.
Does that brush get caught up with the river flow, or is it just at the wall? I'm just curious.
It's, the way the wall was constructed, I was here when they did it, it's like a giant Z, all
Oh,
right?
okay.
Only 4 feet is shown, the rest is underneath. But with the roots growing from trees and brush, it could compromise the concrete and that would, you know, fall wouldn't be as effective. Also, which I didn't bring up, which I'm glad you asked me that question, when they did construct the wall, they put a dirt dam up and blocked the natural flow of the river, so they could do the work on the wall. When they got finished, he never really fully opened it up. You could walk across that dirt wall dam. So the water has to get so high before it actually flows in the Rockaway River.
So it's constricted.
Yeah, because they dug a channel on the other side for mosquito control, and pretty much now the regular river is all overgrown with trees and stuff, you know, and needs to be dredged again. It was dredged once since, I've been here since 1970. The wall was repaired once since it was installed in '85. So, you know, I mean,
You're 66, what, River Road?
River
Or-
Drive.
River Drive, okay.
So in other words, you come down Hiawatha Boulevard, and left, and on the first house, because you're knocking one house down.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi. Can you hear me? Okay, so my name is Tracy Kirstead.
Tracy, I'm sorry, I need to speak into the mic a little bit.
I'm sorry. Better?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm basically just gonna read what I wrote. So I no longer live in town. I grew up on Minnehaha Boulevard in Lake Hiawatha for many years, before I moved out and got married. So I'm actually the spouse of a retired township employee who's sitting here with me tonight, who works in the... I'm the spouse of a retired township employee who's sitting here with me tonight. I've been dealing with a situation regarding the benefits that are provided to us. I started this issue about a month ago, emailing the administration, meaning Mayor Barbario and Mr. Cryan. So, what I wrote will actually explain, what's going on. Because at this point, I don't know what else to do. So my name is Tracy Kirstead. I am the spouse of Warren Kirstead, who is now a retired employee who left the Parsippany DPW in February of 2021 after 26 years of service. Since Warren's retirement, the township still continues to pay our medical benefits premiums under the group plan until he reaches 65. The insurance covers Warren, myself, and our son Braden. In 2009, so going back about 15 years, when the township first had medical insurance with Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, the carrier, meaning Horizon, approved an exception for Braden to receive ongoing mental health therapy from a place called Stepping Forward Counseling Center in Chatham. Please understand that this particular facility, it's an out-of-network provider that's being paid in-network with an allowed daily amount of $350 per session. So every time Braden goes to therapy, meets with the therapist, $350 is paid out. For the last 15 years, this exception has continued and carried over to every insurance company that the township has had. Last month, I reached out to Jackie Ortiz at Fairview Insurance with a concern about the $350 fee that was being paid. She told me that I had to contact the township and administration directly if I wanted any changes to be made with regard to the rate. I had explained to her that at the end of 2022, Stepping Forward increased their billed amount of $375, so they were billing at $375 for 15 years. 200 to 450 per session with a difference of $75. The copay, which I should be paying, is $5. The provider will then balance bill me and charge me the difference of $75. Right now, the balance owed is $1,125, which I can't afford to pay. For the last 3 years since Warren retired, he's been in and out of rehab facilities and hospitals due to his mental health and substance abuse issues. Many of Warren's problems resulted from the ongoing harassment he faced every day at work. He was bullied nonstop by his supervisors and coworkers in the road department. The traumatic events that took place caused Warren to have severe anxiety and panic attacks regularly. There were many instances involving burglary, theft, and drugs. Warren tried to do the right thing and inform the administration about these problems. However, it was all overlooked and swept under the rug. When the other DPW employees found out that he was a whistleblower, the supervisors demoted him and sent him back to sanitation. So, anyway, when Warren was gone, it was for weeks or months at a time. I was left to pick up the pieces, which caused great emotional stress on myself and Braden. Last year, I lost my job and have not been able to find employment since then. Money is very tight, and we are barely scraping by with a little bit of money that Warren makes at his part-time job. Now, what I would like to do is have the township negotiate a new rate with me due to the increased price for therapy services due to inflation. For the Bennett to be paid at 100%, their new cost is $450 per session minus the $5 copay effective January 1st of '23. So it's only been about a year and a half. Most people don't like going to therapy. However, in Braden's case, he likes meeting with his counselor. Braden has a great relationship with his therapist and feels better each time he leaves the office. His sessions help Braden deal with his own difficulties as well as the challenges he faces having to deal with Warren's problems too. I would really be grateful for anything that you are willing to do to help us. It is really hard to rely on Warren's income, especially when he spent more time away than at home. On March 21st, I emailed the business administrator, Jamie Crine, directly. I waited patiently for a response to my inquiry, but never received any kind of acknowledgement or
30
answer
seconds.
until yesterday. At that point, I found that to be very unprofessional. Both Jackie Ortiz and Stacy Chan tried to reach out, and they too got no answer from Mr. Crine. At that point, I was feeling rather frustrated, so on April 17th, I emailed the Air Barbario directly, as well as the Action Center, but still got no response. Then on April 25th, I stopped by Town Hall with printed copies of...
Time's up, ma'am. Your 5 minutes. Time's up.
Okay. I mean, there really isn't much more. So,
We have it's a
That's fine.
5-minute rule. I'm sorry.
My name is Bernie Clark, and longtime resident. I'm here with my CPA hat on tonight to talk about the proposed 2024 budget. I've reviewed the budget and the cumulative 21.5% tax increase that it'll have generated over the 3 years that include this year. It's clear to me we don't need this increase. There's plenty of things that could be cut or revenue that could be increased in 2024 to avoid this tax increase. I'm going to start with other revenues. Other revenues represent about $19 million of this budget, and while most people may not understand that a lot of the town's revenue comes from items other than property taxes, 19 million this year is coming from these other sources. I'm going to talk about two examples real quick. One is the construction code fees. Last year, the town took in 3.8 million in construction code fees in real money. This year, the budget calls for 2.5 million. That's a $1.3 million decrease. And when you consider that you guys rushed through 7 pilots in December of 2023, that would be additional construction on top of what was already going on. I firmly believe that construction code fees should be the same or greater in 2024 versus 2023. Another example is the hotel tax. The hotel tax was amounted to $2,045,000 in 2023. 2024, the budget called for $1,750,000. That's a $300,000 decrease. Now, the hotel tax is that extra fee that you pay on your hotel bill wherever you're at. It goes to the town in Parsippany's case. I see no reason why it's going to go down. The only time it's ever gone down is during the pandemic, and that was clear why that happened. Overstating expenses is another item in the budget that needs to be addressed. A perfect example of that we've discussed before is the legal services fees. 2023, they amounted to $383,000, yet the budget calls for $600,000 in 2024. Interestingly, the 2023 budget was $600,000, and the actual fees spent in 2022 were, I think, $332,000. There's a pattern to this. On certain line items, we're consistently over budgeting on the expenses, just like we're under budgeting on the revenue. Another favorite example of mine from last year is the mysterious salary adjustment number. Last year, I questioned the $750,000 salary adjustment, and the mayor told me in no uncertain terms it had to do with union negotiations. All right, so here we are a year later. 3 out of 4 unions have agreed to terms, as I understand it, including the biggest one, the police. None of that $750,000 was used, and presumably the actual increase that was negotiated is baked into the 2024 budget already. On top of that, we now have a $450,000 salary adjustment fee coming in the 2024 budget, which is totally unnecessary. When you look at the one union that needs to settle, which is an important union, it's the Blue Collar Workers Union, most of their salaries are, in the general budget at least, are in let me make sure I get the names right here, the road department, the parks department, and the sanitation department. And
30 seconds, sir.
Oh, okay. We're way over budget. I think you're cutting me short here. Other people you have long conversations with. There's no reason for these increases. And when you add it all up, you could eliminate the whole tax increase. And I'd be happy to talk to any council member that would like to talk to me about what I've been cut off from talking about now. Please feel free to reach out to me. You can find me. Thank you.
Nick Homiak from Lake Hiawatha. On behalf of the Petersons, I was under the impression from when they got the attorney and they came in front of the planning board that warehouse wasn't going to go there. And it is an inappropriate location. And to me, and I think to anyone with a civic conscience, it's a violation of the public trust to invade the space that's left of the first governor of this, of the state of New Jersey, when we are independent, to me, it's just a violation of the public trust and no historical consciousness at all. No pride in Parsippany, none. And they're getting a pilot deal too? The stormwater will be open to the public next session, correct? Stormwater, because I have to jump around, I only have 5 minutes. So it will be open for public comments.
The ordinances you're talking.
The update for the stormwater, I thought it was going
That's
to
the
be
next
tonight.
meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a public hearing next meeting.
And on the budget, we were told that the average citizen, it's going up $6 a month. Well, maybe if you own your home, but if you have a mortgage, with the tax and the insurance, my mortgage went up $180 a month. I'm a senior citizen, I'm on set income, but I'm, you know, I don't own my own home. So the mayor says $6 a month average, it's $180 for me. So, and, you know, what am I getting in return? I'm getting more police, and the garbage men hopefully are getting a raise. I hope. But I think that's, you know, something to consider too. And the other question I was going to ask, has anyone thought about reducing the budget at all? In any fashion or form? Because I'm sure that there are ways to do it. You know, I like to say to sanitation, we're making a mistake. We pay, now it's $111.25 a ton, to the, so it went up from 2019 to, 2024, it's gone up $417,494. Now, if it's by the ton, if we had source separation, real source separation, we could knock some money off that figure. And it has happened in other municipalities. But it seems like we don't even want to try. Now, Mine Hill is set up to take single stream, but it's still per ton. And if we had the source separation, you don't pay for that. You might even get some money, except for the plastic. So that might be something to consider. And maybe not, you know, driving around all over the place all the time, burning up the gas, you know, leaf blowers and cars and stuff like that. So, you know, little ways, but they might actually mean something in the end. So I'll leave it at that.
Nick, couple things. You stated about your taxes going up $180 and how the mayor said it was $6 and change per month. Okay, that's just the municipal part of your taxes.
I understand
The
it.
$180, you know, that's school board, the school taxes.
I understand
That's in
all
there, the county taxes. Okay, so when you say it's going up $180, that's not us. Okay, that's,
We're-
you know, our portion is $6 and change a month.
I belong to the
Well, wait, we
municipality.
can't have it back and forth, I'm just answering your
okay.
questions. And the other thing was, we did have a number of meetings, the finance committee, and we did work on cutting the budget down. I know, you know, Mr. Venezia is sitting back there, and, you know, one of the things, the mayor didn't use any surplus from sewer and water this year, and he's smiling again back there. So we did cut, you know, you said, oh, nobody wanted to cut, nobody cut. We cut, there were a lot of things that were worked, and the budget was dwindled down before it even came out with the finance committee. So, but we can't have back and forth.
Well, nobody told me my 5 minutes is up.
You said you were done. You said you were done.
Oh,
You were done.
come on, all right,
Come on,
okay,
Nick.
all right.
That's good, Nick. Anyone else? Okay, going once, twice, seeing no one, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public session, please.
Make a motion? Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. McGrath.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Floor is closed. At this time, I'd like the council and the administration to please review the budget second reading and the consent agenda.
Just a quick question about
Sure.
the consent agenda, if I may. Number 8, authorizing the award of a contract for professional public relations consultant services. Is there a name of the company that it would be for?
Council President, I can answer that question.
Yes, please.
Direct development.
Oh,
Yeah, these are housekeeping resolutions that were done at the beginning of the year, and now with our new QPA, she's making sure that everything's, you know, all i's are dotted and t's are crossed, and that's what this is. So it's the same decision that was made at the beginning of the year, it's just doing it in a formal way on each basis. So that, this one with public relations consulting, and the one above it for hearing officer consultant services.
Okay, seeing no other questions, any other questions? Yes.
I have a
statement.
Okay, Ms.
Just
Hernandez.
before we vote on this consent agenda.
Well,
because-
just so you know, we're not going to be taking action this meeting, it will be next meeting, but you could still make your statement, absolutely.
Okay, I still want to make my statement about
Absolutely.
Julie Peterson. Thank you for coming up and sharing your thoughts about and the history of your property. I spent a lot of time at your home, and it's amazing, and I fully support your views on land use in that respect. And that's all I want to say.
Um,
And I will do my part to try to keep that vision and that master plan adhered to.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, we're moving along, to presentations and reports. Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Claude. On April 24th, I'm just gonna go to, we had a, Race to the Finish Field Day hosted by Games with Friends at the PIO, which is an initiative between the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills and the Board of Education, and I gotta tell you, it was very heartwarming. Students were involved, teachers were involved. And this event started like way back, maybe 10 years ago. And it's really has enhanced our community and the high school students as well being involved. Very successful, on April 26th, Arbor Day celebration, in Parsippany. And, I'm proud to say for 48 years with Tree City USA. And then, just I want to let the residents know that the summer camp registration is still open. It starts June 24th through August 16th. And now I'm going to get to some other, I'll start with, to the councilor, Mr. Lavery. If you could really start working on that squatting ordinance, with regards to no squatting in the township of Parsippany-Troy Hills.
Will do, Mayor. We're
All
already
right,
working
and
on it.
then also, I have met with several mayors with regards to the affordable housing here in Morris County. And, we've all, not all of us, some have agreed that to file a suit against the state with regards to affordable housing, because as they call it, a monumental, bill that was passed. It's not monumental, it's detrimental. There's a difference. And, most of the mayors agree that we should fight this together, because it's gonna really, handcuff the township, not just Parsippany, but other townships. When you look at the fair share of housing, the kind of, strength that we're given with regards to affordable housing. Like I said, we've been carrying over 463 units from the last round, which is, it's not that anybody here in this council or the mayor is against affordable housing. What we're against is getting rammed down our throat with no funding in sight for the town, other than the fact that this is what you have to build. And it's going to impact us in several ways. Our infrastructure, it's definitely gonna impact our infrastructure. Our traffic pattern is gonna affect that. But when you have affordable housing, none of those things matter to the courts. So we've had several meetings, myself, Hanover Township Mayor, Florham Park, Mount Arlington Mayor, Mine Hill Mayor, Morristown Mayor, Madison Mayor, and we finally said, we have to somehow do something, because at the rate it's going, it's not gonna stop. This is round 4, and after round 4, there's gonna be round 5. And I don't know what they think towns like Parsippany are gonna be able to handle infrastructure-wise, and we just have to do something. So I'm asking the council to join me, on this with regards to filing a lawsuit. Hopefully, it would be several towns together in a joint lawsuit with regards to the affordable housing, because they rammed it down our throat in the sense that we have to have a plan ready by January 31st, 2025. The original plan was you had to have a plan ready by December 31st of 2025. So they sped it up at a rate where, and if we don't have the plan ready, then we can lose our immunity. We don't want to lose our immunity. We want to work with the developers and all those with the special masters. But once it gets into the judge's hand and the special masters, it becomes a whole different ballgame. So I said to the mayors, I'm willing to fight with you. I hope the council, and I believe the council would be willing to fight as well, because, we just can't stand by, because it's not gonna get any better. And, if you're looking at another 1,000 units on top of the 463 units, you're already into the 5,000 units total. And that changes the face of Parsippany in so many ways, because that's just round 4. They're probably gonna speed up round 5 as well, because they seem to have this initiative out in the assembly, for some reason, want affordable housing to hit the suburban areas. And it's gonna impact us a lot. Why? I'll just give you one example why I believe, and I'll say this, we budgeted properly for hotel tax, and this is why, because the rumor is one of the big hotels is gonna be selling out to residential. And I don't even know if it's a rumor anymore. I'm gonna find out more information. And that's a big piece of property for residential. And that's gonna meet the requirements of affordable housing. And that's gonna be detrimental to the town. And we're doing everything that we can on our end, but even the other mayors are saying, how much more can we handle? How much more can we take? As you heard our water superintendent talking about PFAS, talking about things like that, talking about the infrastructure, the pipes have to be replaced. That's millions of dollars on top of the affordable housing. And what I mean by that is, you know what the courts are gonna do. They're gonna give another scarce resource order, saying, oh, all water has to go to those types of structures, which means even if we wanted to bring commercial in, they wouldn't have the ability to really move forward without having allocated water. So I'll just let you know where I stand, and I want to get the council support as well. Also, the potential cannabis ordinance, I'll be working on to update it and get the cannabis, and I believe the council's on board with regards to bringing in more revenue to the township. So as of right now, that's it for my report, so I appreciate the time, Council President.
Thank you.
Township Council?
Yeah, I would like to just talk about the budget first. You know, first and foremost, I wanted to say that I appreciated the time I spent with the mayor, with the business administrator, and the CFO on Tuesday. I think we had a really great conversation. I went in with a lot of things in mind, and, you know, there was some merit to certain line items, certain things I didn't agree with, still don't agree with, but I think we had a very collaborative and productive conversation, because we have a real need to deliver on affordability. And I appreciate all the time my my council colleagues put into also separately working to reduce the size and scope of this increase. So with that said, after, you know, a thorough review, I wanted to share some of my concerns and some of the line items that I think we could edit, and the cost-saving measures that we could impose that could further reduce the size of this tax increase. So, starting with the executive, I thought that the $60,000 apportioned for direct development could be eliminated. The $28,000 for the part-time secretary could also be removed. The PIO budget, in my view, does not need to go up from 10 to 40,000, so it could stay as is. So there's approximately 128,000 savings from the executive. When it comes to the administration, I didn't see the need for the communication specialist role, and that was about 77,000, and also the assistant to the BA, which has also been vacant, at $70,924 for a total of $147,924. When it came to the clerk's office, I didn't think that this was the right time to be spending $30,000 on hardware and software upgrades, so there's a $30,000 savings there. The assistant to the CFO has been a role that's been vacant for 2+ years at $85,000, and I thought that could also be eliminated from the budget. When it comes to Parks and Forestry, there's 3 labor positions that have been vacant for 3+ years, with a total of $145,392. So one idea there could be that we give $75,000 back to the taxpayers and $75,000 back to the other blue-collar workers, or some areas that we have lost some really talented blue-collar workers to other municipalities. So that could be a thought. of how we might be able to incentivize and keep the talented personnel to stay. Throughout the budget hearings, and still today, I don't believe that the new expense of $74,500 is necessary for the park attendants. So that's a total of $219,892. When it comes to recreation, the seasonal employees reduction, shouldn't go beyond the 400,000 that it has been at the last 2 years. So a reduction of 25,000 from the increase proposed there. Again, there's also a separate line item for park attendants, which is duplicative, in my opinion, that has 50,000 budgeted, while it was 25,000 last year. So I think we should keep that flat. And then I think the increase in township programs is unnecessary to go up to 200,000, and that should be kept at the 155, 955 it was in 2023, for a total of about 100,000 in taxpayer savings. I understand the explanation I received about the 130,000 for pilot fees. That is a pass-through account, but I'm still not comfortable with taxpayers footing the bill first for any pilot-related activity, even if we are going to be reimbursed for that. And that would be 130,000 in savings. And then when it comes to the water utility, the proposed 45,000 in legal expenses, when $750 was spent last year, didn't seem to be necessary. And then when it comes to the sewer utility, they've appropriated 100,000 in legal expenses when only 6,000 was spent in 2023. My opinion is that if an emergency arises, I think we have on deck enough talented personnel that could step in and supply any legal services that are needed without budgeting them up front, for a total there of 94,000. So in general, that's $978,816 that I'm open to giving back to the taxpayers, that I'm open to reinvesting back into the municipality, or supporting some of the workers who are particularly underpaid, or the roles that we're trying to solicit help for, which I understand when it comes to inspectors is critical for us, and we could maybe increase the salaries there. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to share, my solution-oriented plan with my colleagues in a professional way, where they could hear where I was coming from, and in a way that we could deliver a better budget that we've had time to review. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr.
Well,
Mendez.
I also got a chance to meet with the administration too on some of the items, and we do have similar ideas on where we could cut some things. And I'm not talking about the senior center or anything that would affect the community. I did see in some areas where the actual dollars actual dollars spent were a lot lower than the appropriation for 2023. And I came to about, and I'm just looking at water and sewer, and a lot of those costs can be figured out ahead of time. Yeah, you might not have snow and salt some years with the DPW, but with water and sewer, your electric, your chlorine. And there was like a 23% increase in some of those expenses, and the appropriations followed suit. So that was $1.5 million. I understand that we don't always know what the actual is going to be, but we can get closer to the actual money spent when we're appropriating for the the following year, 2024, this year. And also, I did this 65 vacancies, and yes, I know we need DPW, I know we need some people in the labs, but that's also, in the wastewater treatment facility, there's 12 full-time vacancies to almost $650,000. So I just asked that can we look a little bit more at some of these more closely, and yes, and I do have a little bit of concern about the water and sewer, and no utilities, because, yeah, we do use that overhead. The mayor and the council sometimes answers questions for sewer or water, but it's almost like, in some cases, half the salaries are coming from the utilities. So I just want to know if we can just look at this a little bit more closely. Can we? But talk about it? How do we do this?
I think we are, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we are right now.
So I also had an opportunity to sit with the administration, and we went over some of the things that I looked at from a line item perspective, and I went through our books, and as I went down the list, I picked out like 14 different items, and I was like, hey, these are things that I think that we can go and really go after, see if there's an opportunity to save money. And some of those things we sat down and looked at, we actually found that they were actually already removed from the budget. So they updated the book and they resent those out to us, and they said, hey, here's the updated pages. One of the big things that I kind of came to the end state of is, as I looked at what I thought we could pull from the budget versus what I think our impending disaster is, and I've talked about this a couple times now. Judy, you made a great point. 65 people, in some of these spots we just can't fill because we're not offering the right salary, which means we need to increase our costs on salary to bring in more talented people to go and fill those roles. That's more money. Additionally, what I wrote down is you have our inspectors, we're outsourcing those after a certain point of time. DPW, we're outsourcing tree services after a certain point of time. When we can't cut them down, we have to bring people in to go and outsource it. And I talked a little bit about this last time that I think is really critical. Sean Andres talked about an impending potential disaster. PFAS being $5 million per well times 18 is 90 million, or doing some sort of service that kind of collects it to do treatment, or maybe you can cut that down to somewhere around 30 million. We additionally talked about he has to replace the pipes in our town. And at $400 a linear foot, 220 miles, 52.80 a mile, that's $464 million. Those are bondable projects that we have to go after.
That's not in our budget, though.
No, understood.
Okay, so just because people hear that
Yep.
and they think, oh, wow.
Well, I'm going to tie it
that's-
together.
Okay.
So what I heard is, when we came into this, that our credit rating was dropped if we didn't come up with a way to replenish our surplus and come up with a model that kept our surplus high. A bond rating at a certain credit level versus a lower credit level, is that 1 point? Is that 1.25 points? When you times that by $500 million over 30 years compounded, just like your home mortgage, that's a massive increase that we're potentially up against. So maintaining a high surplus, to me, is a value to our town. And the last piece I'll add, and we've heard it, there's $1 billion in potential reassess coming, right? That was submitted. And we know we're going to fight to the best of our ability to come up with the best plan for our town. But if you just look at that number, the revenue that comes out of those, whether you're a hotel or any other taxable base that comes in, those revenues are dropping in our town. We're currently 70% apartment residential to 30 commercial industrial. You take $1 billion out of 1.9 billion in those markets, we're now down to 85-15. So to me, the idea of taking any kind of surplus out of the budget, where the more I think about what our potential risks are, I think we need to include more. But obviously, we don't want to burden the taxpayer, so I'm not going to say add more to our budget. But think about what I just told you, is the numbers that are coming down the pike are incredibly high. And that's really where our risk lies. We can't fill the open spots, got it. So we're going to increase now our dollar figure we're going to offer out. I've offered up solutions to partner with the schools. I had an opportunity to meet with Chrissy Russell and Liz Doyle from both the Hill and the High to talk about two programs that they have. One is interns. We can have Hill and High students come in as interns to these different potential job roles, almost like a job interview. Are you doing the job well? Is this for you? Do you want to, instead of maybe working at a fast food restaurant, get into something that's a little more aligned to where you want to go, whether it's mechanical, electrical, carpentry, whatever, but bring those kids in. We also have a co-op program where they get credit for going to do these things. So I think there's opportunities to close the gaps on those types of jobs. But again, I'll go back to the long-term thinking of where we are and where we were. To me, the budget makes sense. I agree, maybe there's a couple bucks we could pull out, but I don't see it as a huge value in the overall scheme of the budget. That's my thoughts on it.
So we do appropriate more money, even though the budget, the actual costs are less, just for that, just in case, is that what we're saying, that?
Well, we spent
the
5.4 million of our surplus, Judy, already, right?
I
That's paid
know,
our bills. That's the start, right? So we have to replenish that, but yet we know there's $1 billion in tax appeals coming. So we need to replenish
So
it.
this is a big picture. What are we doing with economic development?
I don't
You know,
disagree.
Then there's that.
Yeah, I think,
Please.
I was going to say, I think that it's good to have these solutions-oriented conversations, right? Because you're absolutely right. We do have some very big disasters, mandates that are completely imposed on us from the state, that are not the mayor's, not our fault, that we have to deal with. And then separately from that, we hear from residents all the time that talk about how they want to stay here, but it is getting extremely difficult to live here, whether it's people on a fixed income, our seniors, working families. I was actually with some friends over this weekend, and a friend of mine who's raising a young daughter in the town bought a home almost 5 years ago. His tax bill's already $1,600 higher than where he started. And that's a real economic decision for a working family. So I think it's incumbent upon us to do things that allow us to save money, but also reinvest and prepare ahead for the future. So $1 million is $1 million. That's $1 million every year, as long as we keep it there, and that can deliver taxpayer relief, but it also can prepare us to meet the challenges of those big obstacles that lay ahead.
Can I just ask one more question of Matt
Please.
McGrath?
Of course.
So are you thinking if we reduce the budget from any excesses that we might see, and I hate to use that word, but that would reduce our bond rating?
So my understanding is we had a lowered bond rating from Moody's, Standards & Poor, and we replenished our surplus. This is my understanding from, again, our auditors, from our administration. As long as we maintain those 12 to 15% of that, we can maintain a higher level of rating. If we lower it, our rating goes down, our bonds go up. And this does get into exactly what Mr. Masello, Councilman Masello said, which is that 1% or 1.5% on a 30-year, $500 million,
Right.
loan, bond, whatever you want to call it, that's incredibly high. And again, that's us. Because if we're going to 85-15, that's less people in the corporate space paying the tax bill. That's 100% whoever lives in town is paying the bill, myself included.
Right, so when these mandates do come down, by the way, they will have federal funding
Yeah,
and state funding, just like we did when we built the wastewater and water treatment facilities
perfect.
back in the day. But we will bond for them, and then that debt goes into this budget
Understood.
that we pay on. So we wind up paying on those.
But if we lower our credit rating,
Right.
again, I'll just keep going back. If we lower our credit rating, you're increasing your rate. That's a fact. Now, again, I agree with you. I don't know if you can do is find out how PFAS is getting in the system. I think they've uncovered.
It's been in our
They've uncovered some of those people, though, from, I don't know if you call them Superfund sites, but people that have allowed it to leak into some of these waters. I don't know if there's anything that they do about it.
It's in you. It's in
but
me.
I think-
It's in new babies.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
So, again, that's my opinion of the budget. Like I said, we're not far off from what we're talking about. In fact, I think most of us are saying the same things. We have too many open positions, but how do we fill them? I've offered up some alternatives to how we bring in some young talent to come and work those roles. If we don't, right, we keep hearing these inspectors, we're outsourcing our inspectors now. We don't have enough.
Some of these have been long-term vacancies.
Yeah.
And some of them need to be filled, but some of them have been long-term vacancies that when Janice McCarthy was on council, Councilman DePiero was saying we should get rid of these.
Yeah.
They're long-term vacancies that might never, ever be filled, but they're on here and they get rolled over from
what
budget to
happens-
budget. So
what
12
happens-
people at the full-time people at the wastewater treatment facility. Joe Beckmeyer, please don't get mad at me, but that's $669,000.
But Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, when we met with them, you thought they needed more lab technicians, right?
Well, yeah, that's
Right, no, but I'm saying, but in general,
Yeah.
we need more, but those people are higher qualified. So if we can take two of those jobs and get a higher qualified person, is that a value?
What are you
Meaning,
talking about?
so if we need
I'm
to
just-
hire more qualified people, and there's a budget associated to that group, that we can then collapse and say, let's go get more qualified people to go do better jobs, is that a value to our
They
town?
need a lab technician, but
Agreed.
I don't know if they need 12 full-time, whatever they got going on there with what they have. I'm just saying.
So I think the results
I'm
are,
not looking, I wasn't picking one person here or there because I am not the department head.
I think
I'm not gonna make that judgment, but we could look at it.
I think the result that we all would like to come to is obviously one that reduces the size of the increase as much as possible while keeping the essential services intact, while maintaining the ability to hire new talent that we desperately need, and to prepare ahead for the future. So that's why, with that in mind, I know all of us spent a lot of time going line item by line item, and I looked for what are largely discretionary spending, the cost-saving measures that won't impact services, that will prepare us ahead for the future, that will allow the administration to reinvest that money in either the workforce or much-needed objectives that haven't been met. And I think with this plan, we can go from 2.76 down to 1.25. And that's a lot of money for people who need it right now in this crushing inflationary environment that we're in. So I see it as a win. If my colleagues think some of it is good and not all of it is good, I'm more than happy to entertain any suggestions that you all might have to make it better.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems we have is retaining good, solid people that are experienced. And I think by cutting this budget, you're cutting some of the funds we could pay them. If we talk about open positions, well, there may be 3 positions open. We may hire 3 people for those positions, but 5 retire. That's why we have more openings. We have a slew of people retiring as well and moving to other positions because, one, they're of age to retire, or 2, they're looking for a better salary. So they're moving to other towns and other locations. So I don't think by cutting our budget is going to be helpful, because you can't cut the budget and retain your people, because you just need the funding to pay them. We went over this budget, Councilman President Karifi and I, with the administration. And we did cut a lot of things when we went over it the first time and the second time and a little bit the third time. And I think where it is now will help sustain the town. We don't want to take surplus. It'd be really easy to say, let's take $1 million out of surplus, but we don't really want to do that.
But you did take surplus. Isn't part of this budget using $5 million?
Well, so basically, you're talking about the current fund. You're talking about the current fund.
Yeah.
You're not talking, this practice has been going on for how many years, since Mimi Lutz. So we had 10.4 million in surplus, and we used 5.4 million. Oh, no, Sue, we didn't use any.
That's what I meant, Sue.
No, but yeah, she was talking about using this, and that's a practice that's used in, almost every single year since I was mayor, since Luther was mayor, since Mimi Letts was mayor, and then you replenish it. But I know where Matt McGrath is going with this, a councilman, is that if you don't replenish it at its level it's been replenished, your bond rating has a chance of going down. Not only that, the bond rating criteria is a lot more stricter since 2022. They made it strict where, you can lose your bond rating even if you're doing well. So what they liked about what Parsippany was doing is the fact that we were budgeting properly, and I think it's in the reports as well. We were budgeting properly, wisely, and we were replenishing the surplus, and not just the current fund, but also in the water and the sewer utility. And that's why every year, at the end of the year, we increase it 2% for the utilities, only because of pensions, health benefits, and stuff like that. They increase every single year. What Matt's saying is, yes, if your bond rating goes down, your buying power becomes more difficult, and that's a fact. It becomes more difficult for you to purchase things without having a higher rate, without a higher rate of cost and payback. I met with Matt, I met with Justin. Like Justin said, the meetings went well, but the fact of the matter is, this is a very prudent budget. And a lot of the stuff that's being talked about in the sewer and the water utility doesn't affect the tax base. That's a user fee. That's where it gets affected. It doesn't get affected in your tax. So that doesn't increase your taxes, but it can increase. I'm not going to say it can increase your user fee cost, because you don't use water, you don't get charged. On sewer, you don't get charged. So. And I know how to make that, because I guess everyone was assuming that sewer and water will lower your taxes. And even if we eliminate a position in a sewer utility or a water utility, it won't affect our tax base, but it will affect the sewer utility and the water utility if they don't have the proper amount of expertise there, because those utilities, you have to have special types of criteria, special type of license, and stuff like that. So that's the things that we're dealing with here in Parsippany. So thank you.
I'm going to add a couple things that, Mr. McGrath brought up the fact of the surplus, the fund balance, and he talked about in the long run, the long term, that interest rate, even if it's 0.25%, you realize over a 30-year period, if we bond something, that's millions and millions of dollars that we're now paying extra over that long term. Just because if our rating goes down, we have to pay a higher percentage on our bonds. Okay, so in the long run, it's just like a mortgage rate. You want to get a low percentage, you're going to get a higher percentage. You're going to pay more. Mr. Musella, you brought up a good point about the legal fees and stuff like that. But if there was a legal matter in one of those departments, in the water or the sewer, years ago, there was a situation at the library where the town council had to bail out the library. They had a emergent situation where they did not have the money to cover this situation that happened there, and we had to bail them out. And it was a large amount of money. And if we did not give them that money, they were going to have to cut their hours, lay off people. It would have been horrific for the library. But we gave them that money to stay afloat. If one of these things were to happen with us, if there was a big legal matter or something were to happen in one of those departments and we didn't have the money, then we'd have to come up with it. As of right now, the municipal part of this budget is a $6 and change increase per month, and that includes 3 more police officers. So, when you're saying, cutting, people can't afford. Now, I know $6 a month to some people is a lot of money, but when you think about it, we had a lot of residents come meetings months ago when we had all the catalytic converters getting stolen out of Lake Parsippany, and there were residents in the audience were saying, I'm willing to pay a little bit more if we're going to get more police. I'm sick and tired of the burglaries. I'm sick and tired of the thefts. Get us more police. I'm willing to pay more. This budget includes 3 more police officers. Okay, you're not losing any services in the town whatsoever. You're keeping your services, and again, it's for $6 and change. The part we control, the council, out of your taxes. That's just our part that we control. To put us, to lower this budget, like Mr. McGrath said, long term, I just want people to be able to understand that. It's just like your home mortgage. Would you rather pay a 7% on your mortgage, or would you rather pay 3% on your mortgage? Over that 30-year period, you're going to wind up paying a lot more money. And that's what would happen to us if our bond rating goes down. If we don't maintain that surplus and that fund balance, that's what would happen. As far as the positions, Mr. Neglia brought that up. We have a lot of people that leave because of the amount of money that they make. They might find another town that's paying more. So you might have 2 or 3 openings. Somebody comes in, fills those 2 or 3 openings, but then 2-3 months later, a person retires. 2 people go to another town because they're making a little bit more money. I'd love to be able to compensate these workers, and I know we're hoping that the one remaining contract that we can help them out some more for the blue-collar workers. But if we cut this budget, I think that would have a bearing on that, and I don't want to do that because these people deserve whatever we can get them. I mean, these are hardworking individuals, and we're losing a lot of quality workers because we're just not able to pay what these other towns are. So, again, for $6 and change per month, 3 additional officers, and if we can help out our current employees by giving them whatever we can, I just think that's worth it. Thank you.
So what is how much can you lower the budget? I'm just playing devil's advocate here, and not affect the bond rating? Because we keep talking about the bond rating. What is that magic number?
Just make a motion. If you want to cut something out, cut it.
No, I'm
I mean,
asking you a question.
I know, but-
I'm not.
That may be a question for Mr. Ho.
I was
Yeah, I
just,
was looking at Jamie Cryan.
Yeah, Mr. Cryan or Mr. Ho, maybe? That would be a question for him.
I think it's not an easy question to answer. There's
Oh,
no,
okay.
it's not, A plus B equals C,
Okay.
unfortunately. A member of the public mentioned that expenses were going up in this budget, that we're raising the expenses and what we're allocating to expenses, and that that revenues were underfunded. Well, the reason we were in this boat and we're out of it now, we're coming out of it, was because the opposite was happening a few years ago. Revenues were overstated. Expenses were underfunded. That was the issue when you have a hotel tax that was estimated to be 3 times higher than it should have been. All of that stuff comes to roost. Your budget completely a few years ago was underfunded. Standards and Poor's downgraded the township at the end of, or at the beginning of 2021, or in 2021, because of the issues that they saw. They said this year, when they raised it again, they said the outlook revision reflects our view of the township's significantly improved finances during the past 2 fiscal years after experiencing material reserve drawdown in fiscal 2020. To me, it's clear. It's the examples that Council President used with the credit card and the mortgage, and Councilman McGrath used the same or similar examples. They may seem simple, but it's true. If you have a budget that it has no wiggle room, that has no cash reserves, that takes all of the surplus away, you get what you got a couple of years ago. And you get underfunded budgets where in the prior years, like these past 2 years, you have to raise the budget enough to cover your costs. And that's what happened. Now you're looking at a budget with an overall tax increase of 2.29. You're looking at a budget that is appropriately funded, that takes into account everything that it should take into account. And there's no one-shot games that are being played in this budget. There's no extra surplus being utilized, only the appropriate amount of surplus that is being regenerated and then some. And the open positions, I get it. That's kind of been the buzzword. Like, I look back on meetings before I came to Parsippany. That's been the buzzword that every council has used. Open positions, get rid of them. Open positions, get rid of them. Well, we provide better services than anywhere else in the county by far. It's not even close, not even remotely close. And NJ.com did a study on the 2023 tax rate, saying that we were the 23rd highest taxes in the county. So by far the #1 services, with the best employees who need more help, and the 23rd highest taxes out of 39. With so that means 22 of the municipalities in the county are higher than us. And they're not getting remotely the services that our residents are being provided. To me, if you're looking, I'll circulate the reply to Councilman McGrath's questions, if it's okay with you, Councilman McGrath.
Of course.
Thanks. So in it, it goes through each of the 3 credit looks that the 2 Moody's and the S&P that happened this year. Every single one of them said the same exact things, that in order to get a better rating, you have to get more surplus, pretty much. If you, what can dictate a downgrade is reducing your surplus or reducing your reserve position. Every single one of them said that. It's no secret sauce in that. So if you're looking at what it is that gets you a better credit rating or maintains your credit rating, surplus is by far the key. Cash reserves are by far the key to that.
If I can, I just want to add one other thing too, is, as a lot of people know, that I train and I've worked with law enforcement all over Morris County. So I use that as a resource to ask. And we have phenomenal township employees in every department, but I'm just going to talk about sanitation for a minute. I've asked police officers from almost every town in Morris County, and I tell them what our sanitation department does here in Parsippany. No one compares to our sanitation department in Morris County.
Nope.
No one whatsoever.
We're private companies.
So, yeah, and private companies, you're paying $75 to $100 a month, and they still don't match what our people do and what this town does for our residents. So I just want to throw that out there, because those people, I've talked to almost 39 towns, and we have the top of the line when it comes to that.
And if I may add, Council President, out of those 20, with the 22 lowest and, or highest in tax, whatever, however you want to put it, you can remember the towns below us don't, and most of them don't even, offer sanitation. So they don't include that in their taxes, but the residents pay that. I guess it's a monthly rate, some $80 to $100, a month. So everything's inclusive in our budget, sanitation, water, sewer, and all that, so. Well, so if you were to add that in, we probably would be even lower.
I think with that said, it's time to make a motion for a vote. I think we all spoken about how we feel. With all of that said, I'd like to make a motion to vote on eliminating the line items that I've just read into the record.
So we have a motion to eliminate the line items mentioned by Mr. Musella. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so there's a second. At this point, there's no discussion, since I believe we've already had all the discussion we need. So we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. McGrath?
No.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
No.
Mr. Karifi?
No.
Okay, so 3-2, motion fails. At this time, we're going to move along to the Township Attorney.
No report this evening, Council President.
Okay, Business Administrator, Mr. Crine.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to real quickly thank this council, and as we talked about how good the employees are, we also have a very great council up here. We were able to produce this budget after a lot of work and meet with each of these council people who were very concerned and very interested in seeing how things are done and getting into the details. And it's refreshing to see the level of interest from our governing body, and it's appreciated. I just wanted to, real quickly, before I introduce our redevelopment council, just wanted to take the opportunity to first wish all the mothers happy Mother's Day out there, the moms, aunts, godmothers, grandmothers, big sisses, anybody who's a mother figure. It's coming this Sunday. My mom was an incredible influence in my life. She passed away a couple of years ago, and I miss her every day. But I still have her with me every day, and all the lessons that she taught me. So I really appreciate her. My wife is an incredible mother as well, to her beautiful daughters. Who one of them is has her 5th birthday tomorrow. So
Good.
Happy birthday to Charlotte. One of the items on your agenda is regarding redevelopment at 2030 Lanadex. And the resolution, it authorizes the execution of redevelopment agreement with 2030 Lanadex Urban Renewal LLC for the redevelopment of the property and the construction of a warehouse building. We have, tonight we have our township redevelopment attorney, Mark Cimararo, from Cimararo and Farney. Hope I pronounced your partner's name correctly. Thanks. Here. Mark has years and years and years of land use, municipal, and redevelopment experience, and he is a true asset to Parsippany. We're very lucky that he's on board for us, especially at this time when redevelopment is so important to sustaining our economic development, and so important to make sure that we don't cross over to overdevelopment. So he's here. About 2 weeks ago, we circulated a memo from Mark and some drafts to the council to review, and in the hopes that there would be enough time or sufficient time to review it prior to making any decisions. Obviously, there's no decision being made here tonight, so there's even more time to think about it. But with that, I'm going to bring up Mark, and I hope you find the information that he has that he will be providing informative.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? So we'll do it standing.
Yes, please.
So as Mr. Cryan had indicated, we'd have put before the council consideration of a resolution designating the redeveloper and also authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement. This particular property, the redevelopment process began in January of 2023. The next step is the execution and the designation, which would be by way of resolution, presumably at the next council meeting. The step after that, and this is important for everyone to realize, the step after that is a general, typical site plan approval application before the planning board. At that point in time, people are free to ask questions regarding the application, the site plan application, just as they can with any other application. They could state their concerns. The board could address their concerns in a resolution by imposing conditions, etc. Obviously, that's within the discretion of the board, and it's within the parameters of the MLUL. But it is a very transparent process. It's a very typical process. What we're doing in this step is not promulgating or authorizing the site plan. That's the next step. This is just entering into the agreement, which has to be done before the next step with the redeveloper. This property currently houses a 78,000 square foot dilapidated office building. It's in major disrepair, leaky roofs, mold, and it is presumably going to be replaced with a 140,000 square foot warehouse with 23 loading docks. I did hear some of the public comments before I addressed this governing body here today, and I think that some people questioned whether or not that property would be lawfully used as a warehouse, and the answer is yes. A redevelopment plan, which is the equivalent of a zoning ordinance, was adopted in, I believe, July of last year. And that put into place the zoning that would authorize such an application. I don't think that it's necessary for me to burden people with what my role in the redevelopment agreement was, but to say, and I know that you all have received a red line copy, which were my proposed changes. We did negotiate them with the redevelopers council. I think that we would all agree that the changes that I had suggested and negotiated, ultimately included in that agreement, are for the betterment and benefit of the township. And I think that it's also important for everyone to realize there's no reference to anything regarding a pilot. This is simply a redevelopment agreement. No one's consulted me regarding a pilot. That has simply just not been a discussion. And that's not a necessity with respect to redevelopment. This is simply an agreement with the redeveloper that imposes certain time frames that are to the benefit of the township because it incentivizes, it motivates the actual reconstruction of the site so that it could become a revenue source for the township on a property that currently isn't generating the revenue it used to. So it's a very good project. We're bringing a very underutilized piece of property into a very fruitful state for the benefit of all taxpayers. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions.
Okay, seeing that there's no questions, thank you, Mr. Samaro. Appreciate your time on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I do not have a report, and now I'm asking the council administration to please review ordinances first reading for action at the next meeting. Okay, moving along, seeing there's no questions, to the approval and payroll of the bills list. CFO Leonard Ho recommends authorization for payment. Number one, authorizes payment of the May 10th, 2024 regular and miscellaneous payroll estimated at $1,650,000. And number two, payment of bills from voucher list of May 1st, 2024 through May 3rd, 2024, which is $2,540,230.07. May I please have a motion to approve the authorization for payment?
Make a motion?
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Ms. Hernandez. Roll call, Ms. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. McGrath?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
And Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Motion passes. Can I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a second?
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Musella. Roll call, Ms. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. McGrath?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
We're adjourned. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.